Hey guys, it's Bill from Linden, Tennessee. Well, we're going to do a little bring your Volkswagen DeDion suspension to work day. Before we talk about that, let's talk about this. In case y'all are wondering, what's Bill up to at work? This is what's called a Bearcat. And what we got here is a big old table, 110 inches long and 94 inches wide. And what happens is there's a piece of plywood, and it's got some knives that are embedded in it. And it's got a conveyor on here, and that conveyor will scoot it through these big old heavy rollers. The rollers will smush the cardboard or paper into those knives and cut out shapes, whatever. This particular machine is going to a place that does plastic, and they make like really long, thin strips, say, I don't know, an inch wide and 100 inches long or something. I guess they use it in the furniture industry. I'm not sure, but so that's one table, and then it goes through and smooshes, and I've still yet to make this table. In fact, all the stuff that this is sitting on is a table waiting to happen. So, but that's what I'm working on now at work. But right now at work, what I'm working on is my DeDion suspension. So you may be familiar with these things. They usually have those Tesla hubs mounted to them. I'm not going to do that though. We're not going to do Tesla hubs anymore. More on that later. Not on this video, but later. But what we are going to do is a DeDion tube. I did get my small drive unit from Kevin. Thank you very much, Kevin. It's fantastic. Great little turnover. We ended up meeting in Hope, Arkansas. His guy drove about 4.5 hours. I drove like 9 to get there. And we got to a machine shop there in town who let us use their forklift to do the swap. But man, we got there at the exact same time. Isn't that ridiculous? It's like he drove 4.5, I drove 9, and we got to the gate at the exact same time. Just unbelievable. Anywho, but yeah, so these are my little hub adapter things, and this is the dealy bob that I made to simulate where the leaf springs will be, and this is just there to hold everything square. But the one thing I couldn't really do is make sure that the tubes, these tubes, are square to each other. I could make sure that their distance from here to there is the same, but getting them square to each other is another story. The tops of these should be flat to each other because I made this this jig off of the rear suspension dead axle. So this surface and this surface should be pretty damn close to flat, but this back surface here and this back surface, I don't really have a way of adjusting that. But what I got is a piece of extruded aluminum, which is very flat, at least flat enough for the purpose of this, and just kind of got that clamp there, that clamp there. And then what I did was, on the back of that, I just clamped some pieces of flat bar and have it against my sort of, my little table, my makeshift table, and have that pulled up tight against this, pulled up tight against that side. Then what I could do, when I had the small drive unit at home, I measured from the center line of the axle shaft to the front mount. The front mount. When I get home, I'll show you this. To the front mount. The center line of the axle shaft to the front mount is roughly 9 inches. Okay? And this is a 6-inch tube. So from the center here to the back there is 3 inches. So that means from here to the front of the small drive unit should be 12 inches. Give or take. I mean, this is just, I was just, measuring in the air. So what I did was pulled this up tight, like I said, put this piece down here. This is 1.5 inches. I'm going to use 2-inch by 3-inch, 3/16 wall tubing for the DeDion. And so this is 2 inches. That's 5 inches. This is 5. So that means that 1.5 inches on either side of this puts that right in the middle. So got some 1.5 inch stock, 1.5 inch tubing. Clamp that down there. Measured back from the extruded thing, 12 inches, both sides. Drew a line. Made a 45 right here, and a 45 on that one. Cut these a little bit long. Set them there. Just use this machined mark as a reference because this is pretty precision. I did it on a mill. Use this one and on the other side as a mark for where the end of this tube will go. Put that there, and then on my line measured the distance between that intersection and that intersection, cut me another tube, 45'd it, double checked it, 45'd that, stuck it on in there, and I'm within 1/8 of an inch. I'm cool with that. It's an eighth of an inch short, so I think that's going to be just fine. It's going to be just fine. And then what I did was I took my little speed square here. This is really fantastic. It's really, really wide, so if you're ever doing something where you need to pull off of a side of a tube, these tubes have a rounded section, so it's really hard to get normal squares in there, but this is really fat, so you can get a good bite on the edge. So that's what I did. I set this up straight edge against that, and then pulled this until it's just barely, just a small air gap, and then brought it all the way over, and that way I know that this tube is square with these. It's not terribly important, but it matters, you know. So now that's square. This is the distance from the back of that. Everything should be square and in line and even and good. Now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and tack that again there and again there, make it solid, and then just scribe a line across here and then cut that off. And then that'll be the end of that. And then I'll have these two open ends, and I can just cap them off with some 1/8 inch steel or something, so you know, so it looks nice. And that will kind of be the end of that. But yeah, so that's what I've been up to today. And another thing that I want to do, I got a drawing for it, so that the small drive unit has 3 mounts. So I need to make a square, a rectangle frame that those mounts can weld to, and then that frame will weld to the bottom of the truck, and that'll just give me a whole bunch more points of contact between the truck, the frame, and the drive unit, so that, you know, nothing gets ripped out aspirationally. But that's what we're up to. Okay, we'll see you later. All right, back in the garage. Got this thing all done. Came out real nice. I didn't find a weld this part yet. Just, I hope, heavily tacked, because like I said, I'm not going to be using those Tesla hubs anymore. But when the alternate idea comes around, I'll need to make sure that the distance between the wheels is correct. And I need to have, and if it's not correct, hopefully it'll be too long, too wide. And if it's too wide, then I need to get these tubes off, put it back up in the mill, and I can cut off as much of this as I need to. It should be pretty close, because I measured the dead axle and you know, adjusted this and made everything the correct width, but you know, you don't know until you know, and I don't know right now. So there is the new small drive unit sitting approximately where it's going to be in the truck. I was just looking underneath the truck, and I don't know at the moment, but I may end up needing to move this drive unit to the passenger side. So we're looking towards the rear of the truck right now, so I may need to move it to the left a little bit off center. I don't particularly want to do that. I'd like to have these drive shafts being the same length, but if it's off, you know, a few inches one way or the other, it's not really going to matter. You run into a problem with torque steer, but that's usually in like front wheel drive cars that have massively different length drive shafts, and this is only going to be like, say, a few inches. But you know, we'll have to see how that goes. I made this, and this is just a sort of a frame, obviously, and then this frame fits over the top of that, and ideally this frame would weld up underneath the bed of the truck and give me a whole bunch of points of contact for the weld, and instead of just having 3 mounts that sort of come down and pick up in 3 spots. So that was the idea, but I kind of wish I would have measured up underneath the truck first to see how wide it is, because this is about 2 inches too wide. It won't fit between the spots where the shocks originally went, the shock mounts, the upper shock mounts. It won't fit between that. It's about 2 inches wide, and I mean, I could take 2 inches out of this thing if I need to. It's really not a problem. It's annoying. I actually had to do that with a guard that I was making at work. There was a guard that, you know, keeps keeps little fingers out of dangerous places. And I made it 3/8 of an inch too wide, so I had to cut 3/8 of an inch out, and it ended up being a complete nightmare. But that was much thinner, smaller. But anyway. And the other thing, so those are the Tesla axles. They're not shoved in all the way, but that's pretty much where they'll be. But you can see, obviously, the Tesla is considerably wider than this truck is. Yeah, so I knew those were going to have to get cut down anyway. Just part of the deal. What else? Oh, back here, all this weight back here. I got the new springs, and I went ahead and tried to set the weight, all that weight down on the new springs, and it was better than the other ones. It didn't quite bottom out like the old ones did, but it still got really, really close. So right in here, right there, is an add-a leaf. It's like a helper spring, and that should fix that problem. Yeah. So that was not terribly difficult to do. You just put some C-clamps on there. You take the old bolt out. You drop that bottom leaf. There's only 3, so it made that pretty easy. Drop that bottom leaf, put the add-a leaf in there. The kit comes with a bolt, and you bolt that together. Then you just tighten your C-clamps until it is drawn up. And then once it's drawn up, you tighten that down, torque it down to 30 foot-pounds, and take your C-clamps off, and there you go. It really wasn't terrible difficult. So, and yeah. So hopefully that'll work. The next thing I guess to do is to throw this DeDion tube under there and see how it fits. Let's do that. Okay. Okay. So here we are with the DeDion tube all installed. Where it goes. Now bear in mind, these springs are at max extension. They will never, ever be this low unless I jump. Unless I go over a jump is the only way that these springs will ever be this low. I guess if there was a really undulating road, like a lot of articulation, they might, but no, they're not going to get this low. They will be, hopefully, this spring perch will be probably, I don't know, 3 inches below there. So this is going to come up another, like, let's look. So this is showing about 8.5 inches down, and I would hope that that comes up to maybe like 3 inches of free travel. So this is going to come up 5 inches, and then that kind of works out because the center of the axle is roughly 7, and it's going to be more at 11. So this is going to come up 4 inches anyway, just once the tire's on it, and then the truck bed is going to come down to it. So I don't really know what all that math equals to, but oh well, there it is. And this is, I think that's roughly, I don't know, somebody correct me, but I think that's roughly how the drive unit sits. I don't know if those little bars, lines, whatever, if those are supposed to be vertical. I don't know. If that's the case, then that little reservoir, that little sump down there, it's going to need to be lower, obviously. Maybe only by, say, a 2x4. I don't know. But that's pretty cool. So with that in mind, that means that this whole drive unit is going to need to come up more. So at the moment, I've got an impossibly difficult measuring to do. It's about 10 inches. Oops, sorry. It's about 10 inches to the bottom of the bed. And if, like I said, this bed drops down, say 5 inches, and then these, hell, I don't know. Accidentally hit a button, turned everything off. So where was I? Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know exactly how all this is going to sit. One thing I did want to show you. This is the side mount that it's meant to be over here, something like that. But you can see, obviously, that's not going to work. So, and this is where it was kind of a question: do I just sort of offset this whole? Do I just offset this whole thing to the side an inch or so just to give me some clearance for that, or do I just not use this at all and put like a plate there and just have a link. Just have a link go straight up. I've done that before, where I just had a solid link. It wasn't rubber isolated, but I don't really know if that's a big deal. I don't know a bunch of things, but yeah, that's all I got. It's a pretty good weekend, pretty eventful. So, all right, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.